Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Superpower Podcast. This is the third episode of this series. Now, originally, I wasn't planning to do this again until around the beginning of October, which is approximately 2.5 weeks from now. But guess what? We actually have a second episode this month because Nick and I have a Nintendo Direct to talk about.
Yep, that is correct. Just this past Friday, we finally had a new Nintendo Direct with some interesting information in it. So here we are again to talk about it and what we think about some of the things announced and stuff.
Yeah, and what was actually probably one of the surprising things is that they actually combined the two together, starting with the Mario Focus stuff, which was the first 20 minutes, and then had the regular Direct after that. So that kind of explains now why, in Nintendo's announcement for it 2 days prior, why they advertised it as being 60 minutes instead of like the usual 40 or 45.
Yep, that is correct. And I guess just to be forewarned, I guess is like a bit of a spoiler alert that most of the stuff, at least that I'm going to be personally talking about in regards to Direct, is going to be in regards to the Mario 40th anniversary stuff, because like I said, that is definitely where I have the most things to say for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start, and believe it or not, I'm actually going to start with the Mario stuff. So they started that out by showing like some concept art from like past Mario games, Mario Odyssey, Mario World, Super Mario World, and of course including the very first game, the one that started everything off, the original Super Mario Brothers. Like I could already tell from the moment they started things off with the classic tune from the 1-1 on the original game that we were going to be in for a good treat for that portion.
Yeah, definitely for sure. When I saw that they did that, I was like, "Yep, they got something special for us planned." Obviously, at the very start, didn't know exactly what, but I knew that they definitely had something we were going to be eating good.
Yep, and we started it things off by they started things off by like, well, the first like I guess announcement was like some additional things for like the museum as well as some other things. Like the concept art I thought that they showed at the beginning I thought was pretty cool.
Yep, same here. And even though I don't know when or even if I'll ever go to that particular museum, knowing that it does exist is definitely very cool. And the fact that that a lot of people are going to be able to check that out is definitely very nice for sure. I definitely do hope that people who do get to check that out really do enjoy their experience a lot.
Yeah, and they also mentioned some stuff about the Nintendo Universal theme park, mainly about the Orlando location that's going to be coming soon, which is cool. But I already went to the California one. Gosh, that would have been about 2 years ago at this point. And and even though that was a nice experience, that's one of those things where I kind of don't really need to go a second time, especially considering that plane tickets are not for places like to go to places like that are not cheap.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I would definitely like to be able to do that one day, but it's definitely one of those things where, like, if I do that, it's gonna have to require like a lot of specific planning, and it's also gonna, have to be an occasion where I actually have like a lot of money saved up. And right now, I can tell you right now at this moment, I definitely do not have that. So, even though I do hope to go one day and check out some of this stuff, it's definitely not going to be for quite a while.
Yeah, but if you do ever get a chance to go, Nick, you would definitely enjoy it. And considering the location where you live, I'm obviously not going to reveal that in this video because I don't want to be doxing you or anything. But considering where you live geographically, I think the California location would probably be the most convenient for you.
Yep, that is correct. It is definitely a lot closer to me than the other one for sure. So definitely for sure, getting to that one would definitely be a lot less difficult.
Yeah, and technically you really wouldn't even need to go on an airplane. Like you could just drive from Nevada to California.
Yep. Although of course I'd have to get my license for that, but that's obviously a subject for another day. But either way, like I said, it wouldn't be that hard.
Yeah. So aside from that, the first announcement that they showed aside from that was the reveal of the official reveal that is of the Super Mario movie sequel. Oh boy, does it look awesome!
Oh yes, it does. It looks so good. The visuals are amazing. It definitely seems like they're going to have a great story. And on top of that, the fact that it is going to basically be based off the Mario Galaxy games for a very specific reason. We'll get into that for a second. But the very fact that it is going to be based off the Galaxy games is awesome.
Yeah. Now, even though like the teaser for it didn't mention Rosalina specifically, I would highly think that she would be in this movie. And she would kind of have to be, because Mario Galaxy, of course, was the game where she officially made her debut as a character, from what I remember.
Yep. So it definitely would be appropriate if she's there for sure. But either way, like I said, the movie looks so freaking good, and just knowing and like I said, just knowing that it is pretty much based off like some of the greatest Mario games of all time, it definitely makes me even more excited to see it for sure.
Yeah. Now, they didn't give an exact release date in the reveal. They just said spring 2026. But when I was looking this up later on, the Wikipedia page for it said April 3rd, 2026. Obviously, I don't know if that is going to be the actual date, but releasing it in April to me would make sense, because that was when the first movie came out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well. I'm thinking it's probably going to be like a March or April release, with it most likely coming out in April, I think.
Yeah. And, the funny thing is, like, while we were making predictions for this Mario portion on our previous episode a couple of weeks ago, I did predict that they were going to start off somewhat by officially revealing the Mario movie. And, well, sure enough, I hit that right on the head.
Yep, so you definitely nailed that prediction down for sure. And like I said, it's definitely very clear that they're going to start hyping that up more and more. And like I said, I'm going to be very excited to see that movie for sure. It definitely does look like it's going to be quite a bit more polished than the first movie. So I'm excited to see how it all goes down.
Yeah. And now getting to to Mario Galaxy, well, the game that is, I have to say, like, the game and the movie now, I guess, to differentiate the two to avoid confusion. But, yeah, the first two Mario Galaxy games are coming to the Switch. Okay, well, the first one technically already did kind of come to the Switch 5 years ago as part of the 3D All-Stars collection. But that collection, of course, was a limited time release that's sadly no longer available. So this is technically a re-release, but Mario Galaxy 2 is making its Switch debut, which is definitely exciting.
Heck yes. I've been waiting for this game on the Switch for a very long time, and the fact that it's finally coming is awesome. And not only that, but the fact that both it and the original Galaxy also look like they've been touched up just a little bit, like not dramatically. Still, like I definitely wouldn't call them like full-on remasters, but the fact that you can definitely tell they touched on something is still really nice to see.
Yep. Now, bundled together is, I think, $70 US, they said, or $100 Canadian for me up here. But you can also buy them as separate downloads for $40 USD each.
Yep. And considering I personally already have the first Galaxy on the 3D All-Stars, I'm probably only just going to get the Galaxy 2 re-release. But even still, like I said, it does look amazing. Although I will say, like I said, the $70 price tag, I do agree, because a lot of people online are once again complaining about that. I definitely do agree the $7 price tag is definitely insane. And, even as someone that kind of has defended some of the things Nintendo has done in the past, I have to admit, it does kind of feel like in this instance that they kind of are getting a little bit gritty with that price.
Yeah, and plus, these are basically... although they are adding like new Rosalina storybook pages, which is nice, as well as difficulty options, which is even nicer, especially for less skilled players like myself. But now that kind of makes you wonder if the version that they released for free of Galaxy 1 they released for 3D All Stars is going to get an update to have the new difficulty options and storybook pages added in.
Yeah, and like I said, the new pages are definitely very cool, and like I said, the fact that they do have a difficulty setting is nice, but even still, it's still like, 18 and 15-year-old games respectively being repackaged for essentially, like a full-price new game, which is still absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and And our friend Dominic, aka Video Game Fan 96, he was we were bringing this up with him during our Weekend Gamers episode that we did this past weekend when we were playing Mario Party Superstars. And in his opinion, he said that he doesn't think the minor updates, those being the new storybook, Rosalina's storybook pages, as well as like the HD upscaling and difficulty mode additions, he doesn't seem to think that that's worth the price increase, from what I remember him saying.
Yeah, but I would definitely have to agree with him for sure. At the end of the day, like I said, I'll still definitely at least get the Galaxy 2 re-release for sure because I love that game, and also because, like I said, I'm sure it's going to be nice even just playing it even with the Switch 2 Joy-Cons as opposed to the Switch 1 ones, because obviously, like I said, you can play this game on the Switch 2 as well. But even then, like I said, I'd be lying if I said that I think Nintendo actually had like a decent deal here.
Yeah. Now, I do already own both of these games on the Wii, but I wouldn't mind doing it again on the Switch, especially because of the fact that I wouldn't have to use motion controls. And that's kind of also the reason why I haven't played Galaxy 1 or 2 on my YouTube channel yet. But,
yep, so now that...
Yeah,
sorry, I was just going to say, at least now this re-release will finally give you a good chance to do so.
Yep. And then, okay. So next so then after that was and this is coming out October 2nd, by the way. So 2.5 weeks from now, which is a quick turnaround.
Yep. But like I said, it's at least a good thing that it's coming out pretty soon for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, it might be like one of those things like I wait a couple weeks to get it, but I'm still going to be excited.
Yeah, and this wouldn't be the only time that they've had like one of those quick turnarounds, because if you remember 5 years ago, in the special direct they had for Mario's 35th anniversary, that was where they announced the Freaks All-Star Collection, and then that came out 2 weeks after that original announcement. So that was a pretty quick turnaround too. Yep,
it's definitely cool they're trying to get some of this stuff, out there as soon as possible, which is definitely understandable, especially because, like I said, Mario's 40th anniversary definitely is a big deal.
Yep. And then after that, the amiibos look good, but why are they expensive? And also, why are they releasing like 6 months after the game comes out? That doesn't really make any sense to me.
Yeah, I know. Like what the heck, man? It's I feel like there's not a lot of people that even use amiibos very much anymore to begin with, and the fact that they're charging extra for this crap and and releasing it, it's just like, why? What's Nintendo doing here?
Yeah. And you're actually reminding me of another WTF moment Nintendo had in the regular direct. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Right now, as far as for the next announcement they had in this portion, a new Mario sports game, in this case a new Mario Tennis.
Yep, and I gotta say, I guess I'm kind of sort of conflicted here because, on the one hand, like I believe I said yesterday, I actually do think the game looks really, really great. I do. Like compared to to Mario Tennis Aces and especially Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, I think this game looks a lot better than both of those. It looks like it's got a lot more content. It looks like it's going to be a lot more fun to play. At the same time, however, it is also kind of a bit underwhelming just because of the fact that, I think a lot of us were really hoping for either a new Mario baseball game or just a new Mario Sports Entry game in general. So seeing another Mario Tennis game come out, even though it's nice and all, and I'm definitely going to get this game. I don't know, the excitement level just I guess for lack of a better word, just isn't quite all the way there.
Yeah, but from what I saw though in the gameplay they showed, they definitely have some great wacky elements in there. Things that haven't really been seen since the N64 and GameCube eras.
Yep. It does finally seem like they're actually putting for lack of a better word, I guess, some weight under this game and making sure it's actually going to be very fun and replayable, which is definitely good to see for sure. Because I feel like the big problem with a lot of Mario Sports Entries on the Switch was that a lot of them just simply didn't have any long lasting appeal because a lot of them were pretty much just just had the most simple content imaginable or just weren't very fun to play. So there wasn't very much reason to go back to them after a while.
Yeah. Well, as long as this game is good, that's kind of all I ask. Come on, Nintendo, please let this be a good game when it comes out. Not like the friggin' Mario soccer game you put out on the Switch. I don't even want to get started on that.
Oh God, yeah, I hate the Mario Strikers game on Switch so much.
Yeah.
But anyway, before we get off the Mario Tennis game though, which like I said, I do think it looks really good, and I'll be excited to play it. I feel like we can't, talk about this game without mentioning one thing, and that is, of course, the fact that, well, they've officially now confirmed that Baby Waluigi is now officially a thing. Baby Waluigi is a character now.
Yeah, like, that I found interesting. So,
Yep.
So I guess that means that the regular Wario and Waluigi are dads now. Okay.
Yep, which is definitely quite interesting for sure. That is definitely something I was not expecting to see, but hey, I got to see it confirmed. It's pretty cool. I'm not exactly a big Waluigi fan, but hey, for those who are, and for those who've been kind of one confirmation that for a while, well, there you go.
Yep. And it kind of makes you wonder now, though, who the moms would possibly be for the baby versions of Wario and Waluigi, but I don't think we're ever going to get an answer to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on that either, but who knows? Nintendo is known to surprise us.
Yeah. Then we had the Super Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition. Like, do we honestly need another Switch 2 edition? I mean, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I mean, because Mario Wonder, is, on the Switch 1, had plenty of content to get you engaged. It was just fine like it is. I honestly don't think this is something that was really necessary.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's cool that it's coming out and all, and it definitely might be something I might think about getting, especially because it does have extra content and stuff. But honestly, like I said, it doesn't really feel that necessary, and I had to be even from the trailer, there was nothing about the Switch 2 edition that really made me go dang, I really need to get this up right now.
Yeah, and then they also decided it was a good idea to have a talking flower toy or figure. Just why?
I don't know. I guess maybe that they think they can maybe get a lot of sales off of that because of what their child audience or something like that, which I guess could be true. But even then, that's not something I'm personally ever gonna touch because it's so dang weird.
One thing is for sure with that. That thing is gonna get really annoying really quick.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, when it comes to that talking flower figure, I'm probably not gonna bother with it. I guess it is neat for people who really do love Mario Wonder so much, and of course, wanna, I guess, for lack of a better word, kind of expand their time on the game. But it is still just kind of very bizarre, in my opinion.
Yeah, I honestly think that the toy is something that wasn't really necessary.
Yep, I would definitely have to agree on that. But as for the Switch 2 edition game itself, like I said, it does look good. Maybe it could be one of those things where if it ever goes on sale, I might eventually get it. But it's definitely not. But out of all the Mario stuff they announced, it's probably the thing I'm looking forward to probably the least, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and then there was the final announcement, at least the final one for the Mario portion: Yoshi and the Mysterious Book.
Yep. And I gotta say, I know Dominic when he was talking about it yesterday in the Weekend Gamers episode, didn't really seem too thrilled about the game. But personally, I think it actually does look really cool. I think I like the animation style a lot. I definitely do think it's a pretty cool concept. I don't know if it's going to be at the level of Yoshi's Woolly World, but as a game, it does look really fun. And if I do kind of wish they would have gone with a 3D Yoshi game instead.
Yeah, and the funny thing, and the thing is, and the interesting thing about this is, I was actually showing the Nintendo Direct trailer of that game to my coworker that I was with today, and she thought it looked pretty cute.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely do think that there's going to be a lot of people out there, especially I'm kind of casual Nintendo fans that really do get a kick out of that Yoshi game for sure. And like I said, I do think it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I definitely do. Hopefully, it definitely will be a better game than Crafted World at least. Because if I'm being perfectly honest, that Crafted World was never really a game that excited me too much. So hopefully, this game is a lot better than that.
I mean, I liked Crafted World, but that game was like way too easy.
Yeah. So hopefully they have at least notched up the difficulty a bit in this game for sure. Like, yeah, it doesn't have to be like, stupid hard, but at the same time, at the very least, make it so that, uh, make it so that, like, not even like a 4-year-old could easily beat it like on like the very first time playing through it.
Yeah, like, well, they said it's coming out in spring. My guess right now would probably be March or April.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. Uh, if I had to guess, probably, yeah, that could maybe be like a March game, maybe. We'll have to see what happens. But either way, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, I do think looks like a really cool game for sure.
Yep. And that was it for the Mario portion. And then they went into the regular direct, which started off with Storm Lancers. I don't really have anything to say about that.
Yep, neither do I. Not going to get that game, and wow, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Then there was Dinkum and Popucom. Again, I mean, they look okay, but I'm not going to get those.
Yep, same here. No interest to me for those games either.
Yeah. Then the first Nintendo announcement for the regular direct was a new trailer for Tamagotchi Life, which is a game that I don't really have any interest in getting, but I know Connor is Connor Condria, that is, like, he's I know he's excited for that, because if you remember when they had that Switch 1 Focus Direct at the end of March and they showed that game at the end, he literally flipped out.
Yep, that is true. I know that's definitely a game that Connor's going to be really into, and I think the same is true of Crazy as well. I'm sure they're both going to really like the game a lot, but for me personally, I don't really care about Tamagotchi Life. But either way, like I said, for those who are looking forward to the game, I hope that it turns out to be great for them.
Yeah. It's coming out in the spring for those who are going to be getting it. Then we had the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. I mean, Mortal Kombat's cool and everything, but not really something I play that much, so I don't think I'm going to be getting my hands on that.
Yeah, pretty much the same way for me. I mean, I kind of like the Mortal Kombat series to an extent. They are fun games, but I don't really love the series enough to where I necessarily need to have that game in my collection. I guess it is cool that they have like behind the scenes and like stuff like that. But really, for me personally, just that's not really enough of a reason for me to care about getting that game.
Yeah. Then the game after that was a release date update for Final Fantasy VII Remake on the Switch 2. And originally, I think they said that was supposed to be out this year. So, and then the release date they showed at the end indicated that the Switch 2 version did unfortunately get delayed a little bit. But it's going to be coming out like right at the start of 2026. January 22nd to be exact. So that's not that long of a wait. So I guess that's not a bad thing for the Final Fantasy fans. And now, I don't really see it. I don't think I'm going to pick this version up. Mainly because of the fact, like, it's not that I have no interest in the game. I mean, if I didn't, I wouldn't have even bought the PS5 version to begin with. But the fact that I've already played through and beaten it on the PS5, as well as its respective DLC, is kind of the main reason why I don't see the need to pick this up again on a different system.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do want to check out the Final Fantasy VII remake at some point, for sure. Kind of like when I have more time on my backlog, but I don't know for sure if I were to get the game that I would get the Switch 2 edition because obviously, like I said, there's definitely better ways to play the game, such as like on the PS5 as you mentioned. But either way, I do know that my one of my real life friends, Grant, is a big Final Fantasy fan, and of course, I know he was very excited about that announcement. So I hope that he can get this version and really enjoy it a lot himself.
I'm sure he will. Then we have, or we had rather, then we had Link, Banner of the Spark. Okay, I don't really know what that's about, and I don't really want to get into that because it's not anything that I'm interested in.
Yep, same here. Pretty much have nothing to say about that one.
Yeah. Then we had Hades 2, which is going to be coming out actually in about a week and a half from now. At least the Switch 2 version is. And it does look pretty cool, but again, it's not really something I'm interested in.
Yep. definitely another game that's kind of that I'm gonna skip for sure.
Yeah. And then the next segment, then the next bit uh, was a small thing on Kirby Air Riders. Now we already know that that's coming out on November 20th. So for this one, so this announcement was mainly focused on new amiibos that you can get for the game, and they look pretty cool.
Yep, they do. Even as someone that doesn't really have interest in amiibos anymore, it is still cool that this game is getting them for sure, and that Nintendo was kind of embracing them. Like obviously, like I said, I'm sure obviously the extra cost is going to probably turn some people off, but I do think the amiibos are definitely coming up. Amiibos coming for the game definitely do look really cool for sure.
Yeah. But what else is pretty cool is that they also said during that portion that there was going to be another Kirby Air Riders Direct on the way fairly soon. So that will definitely be worth tuning into.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely am looking forward to that for sure.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Then we had Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, a new gameplay trailer, and like it looks pretty impressive, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I do have to admit that it does look like a really nice game for sure.
Yeah. And now, everyone though was probably wondering, when are they actually going to release this? Well, we finally got our answer for it, and it's actually coming out much earlier than we probably expected. Because if you remember, when they first showed this off in the Switch 2 Direct back in April, they initially said it was going to be coming out in winter. So to me, that tells me okay, probably a January 2026 game. And lo and behold, it is coming out on November 6th of this year, just 2 weeks before Kirby Air Riders.
Yep. So that was kind of an interesting surprise, but either way, like I said, I definitely do hope that the people enjoy that game for sure.
But that does lead me to one possible theory that I immediately came up with for when they announced that November 6th release date for Age of Imprisonment. Is they might have internally had something else planned for that spot, but it may have needed a bit more time, so they decided to move Age of Imprisonment into that slot instead, and then put the other thing in 2026. Which would
Yeah, I could
actually.
definitely see that being
Yeah.
possible.
And this wouldn't be the only time that Nintendo's done a release date flip flop like that, because from what I remember, back in 2022, both Splatoon 3 and Xenoblade 3 were both supposed to release during the summer. Splatoon in July and Xenoblade 3 in September. And, well, they both came out during that summer period. However, Splatoon, remember when Splatoon was supposed to come out in July of that year, from what I heard, it wasn't quite ready yet for that time frame, so they had to delay it a little bit, and they ended up moving up Xenoblade 3 into July, so that because that one was apparently ready to go. So Xenoblade 3 ended up being the July game, and Splatoon 3 ended up coming out about a month and a half later in early September.
Yep. So I could definitely see something like that being possible for sure. Obviously, only time will tell on that front, but either way, I definitely do think your analysis could end up being what actually ends up coming true for sure.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we don't know what game Age of Imprisonment could have possibly swapped places with. That's something we'll probably know at a later time, because that's how Nintendo always likes to do things. Uh,
Yep.
then after that was a remake of Dragon Quest VII called Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. I mean, the graphics for it look nice, but I'm not really much of a Dragon Quest fan. For the ones that are, though, it's coming out in February, and surprise, surprise, Switch 2 physical version of it is a game key card, because of course it is.
Yep. Nintendo is still going heavy on this game key card bullshit, and well, like I said, even though I've kind of talked about it ad nauseum before, it really is a shame what's happening with that crap. And like I said, I definitely do not blame the people that are pissed about that. Honestly, like I said, with the game key card stuff at that point, I'd rather just buy the game, digitally from the start to begin with anyway, that way, instead of just like a useless game card.
Yeah, then they announced some new themes for Nintendo today, mainly based off of Kirby. Well, mainly because of Kirby Air Riders coming up, so that makes sense. Okay, so those were pretty cool. And then, I mean, what did you think of those themes?
I definitely do think they looked pretty cool for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't really use the Nintendo today all that much, and I do kind of feel like that was mostly kind of designed to hopefully try to get people to use them more, which makes sense. But either way, the themes did look nice for sure.
Yeah. Then after that was an update for the Nintendo Switch Online service. And I always love these parts because my mind was immediately thinking, okay, we're finally going to get Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD like what was originally quote unquote rumored back in July. Either that or. Nope. What did they do? They throw a curveball and decide that it was a good idea to bring back the Virtual Boy. Just. Why? But I just want to know one thing. I mean, I'm probably never going to get an answer to this, but I just want to know one thing. Who in their right mind at Nintendo thought it was a good idea to bring that back?
Exactly. Like honestly, that was honestly probably like one of the dumbest parts of the whole direct right there was the fact that they freaking announced a Virtual Boy. And like I said, at first when you hear that, it's like one of those things where you think, oh my god, is this like some kind of like stupid like little joke that somebody on the internet put up, like some like stupid little troll video? But no, it's actually legitimate, and it's like, what the hell is Nintendo thinking with this? I don't know if they're just like determined to add like literally every console ever to Nintendo's Switch Online lineup, and that's why they're doing this. But even still, it's just so freaking honestly ridiculous.
Yeah, and and I already said this in the most recent Weekend Gamers episode, but I'm gonna put it out here again in this because it's kind of important. Like ever since like Nintendo started the whole NSO thing, like in late 2018 or whenever that was, for the most part, I've usually liked whatever announcements that they've had, whether it comes to games being added to the service, consoles being added to the service. This is the first time ever NSO announcement that I flat out disliked.
Yeah, for sure. That is definitely the first time when I'm like, like what the heck, man? That's definitely the first. Well, I guess I wasn't really too thrilled about the Sega Genesis announcement, only just because of the fact that, like I said, I already have so many other ways to play Sega Genesis games, so that didn't really give me too much either, even though I have the Sega Genesis app. But this is like the first time where I genuinely am like, oh my god, this is bad. This is genuinely bad.
Yeah, not to mention a minimum of $100 US to buy the accessory that's required for this, which for me would probably be like $130, $140. No, just no.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, not only are they essentially putting on like a failed console with pretty much no really great games on it, other than maybe Wario Land. With pretty much no great games on there, but you also have to have the stupid freaking accessory for it too, which is like why?
Yeah. So like me and the Weekend Gamers guys last night, including Nick for that matter, we basically all agreed that we were not going to be adding this app to our repertoire.
Yeah, for sure. And to be quite frank, I really do not know anybody who is.
Yeah, like now if say they had announced that they were adding Nintendo DS to the service, that I think would have been much better. Because the DS was a lot more successful and there were a lot more quality games on it. Like you had Super Mario 64 DS, you had Mario Kart 7 DS, Gen 4 Pokemon. There was a lot of great stuff on there.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely for sure, like DS coming into the Switch 2 definitely would have been. I think like a lot more hype too. And I still have hope that one day it will happen. But either way, like I said, the Virtual Boy announcement is definitely a massive bust, and I can't really think of any other reason Nintendo's doing it other than I guess the fact that maybe they're testing the water to see like how many people will actually play Virtual Boy games or whatever, or just like how like loyal some of their fans are to the point where they actually will pay for that accessory. I don't really know, but either way, like I said, I highly doubt that many people are actually gonna be getting that app unless they're like really really weird and like want to get like everything on their Switch 1 or Switch 2 for whatever reason.
Yeah. To put it in baseball terms, that announcement was just a little outside.
Yeah, and like I said, definitely I think probably the biggest well, other than maybe after, like I said, with the price announcements for Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, definitely I'd still say other than that, probably the biggest failure of that direct.
Yep. Okay, so after that was the remake of Fatal Frame 2. I mean, it looks okay, but I'm not into the horror type stuff, so probably not going to get that.
Yep, same here as well.
Then then we had some more Switch 2 editions. One Piece Pirate Warriors, which I've never played. I don't intend on playing it.
Yeah, neither do I. That's definitely what I'm gonna skip.
Then there was one for Overcooked 2. Now this one, I have a feeling would be of particular interest to you because I know how much you love the Overcooked games.
Yeah, I gotta say this is definitely one I'm excited about for sure because obviously, as you know, I have played that. I haven't really played that game lately, but I did once play that game a lot with Bowser Girl and even a couple times with some Kirby. And like I said, it is definitely a lot of fun. And so the fact that it is getting a Switch 2 edition now definitely is really awesome. And honestly, I'm sure Bowser Girl is definitely going to be one to play that game again with me. Not the Switch 2 version is coming out as well. But either way, that does look nice. That might actually be like probably the only Switch 2 edition that they showed during that portion of the red that I might actually get.
Yeah. Then after that was Stardew Valley, a Switch 2 version of that. Yeah, no interest in that whatsoever. Switch 2 edition of Human Fall Flat. Again, that's a pass. Then there was also a a new Power Wash simulator that they showed off.
Yep, and Power Wash Simulator is kind of fun, but still not gonna care to get it on Switch 2.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna skip that one as well. Then we had Suika Game Planet. From what I remember, that was the one with those little watermelon balls. It was a puzzle game or something like that. Not really interested in that.
Yeah, I've never really understood why that game got as popular as it was. I mean, it looks kind of cute, I guess, but nothing I really care to play.
Yeah, let's see. Then we had Metroid Prime 4. Like, uh, like, now this is a game that I'm not planning to pick up, but there was one really cool thing in that. Samus on a bike. Since when?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the big thing everybody's talking about with that reveal, and I gotta say, I can't blame them because it's like why that's something we've never seen Samus do before, and it's it'll be interesting for sure. That's all I'll say. I imagine for people that love the Metroid game, it's going to be very very interesting mechanic. I don't know if it'll be good or bad, but it's interesting that it's there in the first place.
Yeah, and the and it's going to be coming out on December 4th, so just under the wire for Nintendo's 2025 time frame. To think that roughly 8.5 years following its original announcement in June 2017, people are finally going to be able to play it in a couple of months.
I know it really is crazy, just how long it took for this game to come out. Obviously, I know it's because they had to switch developers, and that this, of course, a really complicated game to begin with and stuff. But even still, the fact that we first known about it since literally the very beginning of the Switch One's lifespan, and it's now finally coming out at the beginning of the Switch 2's lifespan, I think says a lot for sure.
Yeah. Well, at least Nintendo's being nice enough to still put it out on Switch One, even though it's old hardware at this point. But I think they're only doing that mainly because they originally announced it for Switch One at the beginning of that generation, so they kind of need to stick to that promise.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, with how long the game was taken, I was honestly kind of originally thinking to begin with, of course, obviously that Metroid Prime 4 was originally going to be like a kind of like both like a launch title for the Switch 2 and also like a game for the Switch 1 as well. Kind of like what they did for Breath of the Wild and for like Breath of the Wild, and of course, I think Twilight Princess as well back in the Wii and GameCube days. But either way, like I said, it is nice that the Metro fans are finally getting that game.
I mean,
I don't know if I actually will get Metro Prime 4 just because, like I said, there's nothing about Metro that interests me. I will say though that Metro Prime 4, at least on the Switch, especially on the Switch 2, does look absolutely gorgeous.
yeah, I mean, at least it's still being released as a cross-gen title. But the only difference though with this is that it's coming out about 6 months later than I thought it would. But that's not too bad.
Yep, for sure. And either way, like I said, at least it'll finally be out. It'll finally be out for everybody. So they'll finally have the chance to enjoy it for sure. And hey, the fact that it actually does finally have a release date to begin with is honestly really cool in and of itself because that because obviously as we know, Nintendo showed up the game at least like two previous times and they didn't yet have a release date ready. So the fact that they finally do have one is really good news.
Yep. Then we got into some DLC for Donkey Kong Bonanza. I mean, it looks okay, but like, it's kind of a bit repetitive. I mean, it's one of those things that to me looks like it can get pretty boring pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Like, that was kind of another bust for me because even though I really do like DK Bonanza a lot, I think it's an amazing game. But even then, I really do not think that, that DLC looked like particularly compelling.
Yeah, and and they're charging $20 US for this too, which is even more scummy. Uh, but to be
Yep,
honest,
so
like
not
I've,
going to pick that up.
huh?
I was going to say, so yep, not going to pick that DLC up, I don't think.
Yeah, like, and besides, like, I've had my more than my full content for that game with the main game anyway, so I think I'm good. Now, if this was like free DLC, then obviously I would have pulled the trigger, but $20 for what amounts to almost nothing, 20 US dollars that is, for what amounts to almost nothing, yeah, I think that's a hard pass for me.
Yep, 100% agreed.
Yeah, then after that we had Pokemon Pokopia. Why is Pokemon being mixed with Animal Crossing now? Why are we doing this?
I don't know. I guess someone at Nintendo thought that was clever or something, but either way, I don't particularly get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming out at some point next year, release date unknown as of right now. And of course, it's being made by Game Freak, which is no surprise. But what is a surprise was that it was actually co-developed by both Game Freak and Koei Tecmo. Now, when they showed that, that was a bit of a surprise because if you remember, Koei Tecmo is best known for making the different Warriors games, like particularly the High Rules Warriors games on the Switch.
Yeah, I definitely did find that pretty interesting for sure. Does kind of make me wonder how it is going to turn out eventually.
Yeah, but for what I saw in there, like, it looks so bad. Ugh.
Yeah, it's definitely not something I'm going to be interested to play for sure.
Yeah, so that's so this basically means that there's going to be at least two Pokemon games coming out next year. That spin-off one, Pokopia, and whatever the Gen 10 game ends up being. And I think I'd rather have the Gen 10 game over the Pokemon Animal Crossing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. And I imagine pretty much everybody else feels that same way too.
Yeah. And then speaking of Pokemon, because we were not done with that yet, another trailer for Pokemon Legends ZA, which of course comes out a month from now. But, and this was something I kind of wish they hadn't done yet, announcing DLC for the game. When it's not even out yet! Like, why? Why are we doing that?
Yeah, like that is like such a monumentally stupid move on Nintendo's part. It's like why? It's essentially like one of those things where you're kind of like admitting that like the game might not be like 100% finished by the time it comes out. So you're gonna release DLC later on the patch, and it's like it's like what the fuck are you doing, Nintendo? Like even if that's like not like fully the case, that's definitely what many people are gonna very understandably think, and it's just like why.
Yeah. Well, at least that DLC to me looks like it'll be more worth it than the one for Donkey Kong Bonanza. So, I think that DLC I'll probably pick up, but I'm not gonna do it until after I beat the main game, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And either way, like I said, I do hope you have a lot of fun with that game when it comes out. I'm sure it probably will be a great game for many. But like I said, announcing DLC like that was just so dumb for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm gonna have a good time with that, but I know for a fact that you've never really been interested in that franchise, so that's likely a skip for you if I'm assuming correctly.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna skip the game.
All right, well, fair enough. All right, so then after Pokemon was a remake of Danganronpa 2. Um, like that. Those kind of games to me have always been kind of cringe and creepy, and the trailer they showed for this didn't really further affirm that. I mean, it's coming out next year, but again, not really anything I'm interested in.
Yeah, not going to be a pickup for me.
Yeah. And then after that was a Switch 2 version of Dynasty Warriors Origins, which comes out the same day as Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, that game I already bought on PS5 a couple of months ago. I barely played it, but for what I have played of it, I mean, it looks okay. Probably not going to get this version, though.
Yep, same here. I definitely agree.
Yeah. Then after that was Monster Hunter Stories 3. Now, if you remember, they just announced this game not too long ago in the partner showcase at the end of July, and at that point, they only said 2026 for the release date. For the release timing, they didn't give a release date in the initial trailer, but we have one now. It comes out March 13th, 2026. That's something I might check out, but I'm still not 100% sure yet.
Yeah, that might be like one of those like wait and see games for me as well. It does look pretty cool, and I kind of have always been into Monster Hunter, but I also am not going to pretend as if though like it's a game that I'm like super excited about.
Yeah. Then after that was the sizzle reel. Unfortunately, I don't have a list of every game that was in the sizzle reel because it went by much too fast. But to me, but the best one in that sizzle reel though was FC 26, which of course is a soccer game. It's coming out next week, but I don't think I'm gonna get that. And like I said, like the sizzle reel went too fast for me to be able to write down everything that was in there, but they were all things that I'm not really gonna get anyway, so that's not really a big deal.
Yeah, pretty much same here. I can't even really think of one game from that sizzle reel where that like instantly stood out to me as like, oh yes, I need to get that game.
Yeah. Yeah, and then after the sizzle reel, the penultimate announcement was Resident Evil Requiem, and Resident Evil games are usually pretty cool, but they're also a bit scary. I don't think I'm gonna get this.
Yeah, same here. Never really cared about the Resident Evil games, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, that one comes out February 27th of 2026, and then finally the last announcement, which definitely got our friend Dominic excited. A brand new Fire Emblem game called Fortune's Weave.
Yep, we know that Dominic is a big Fire Emblem fan, so obviously, the announcement of that game definitely made him very hyped, and yeah, I definitely do hope that game does turn out very well because Dominic is definitely really into Fire Emblem, so I hope for his sake that the game is really really great.
And I'm sure it will be. Like, they didn't give a specific release timing for that, just that it comes out next year, but apparently it's a sequel to Three Houses, and Three Houses, when it came out in 2018, was a summer release, so I could imagine the same situation for this particular game as well.
Yeah, probably somewhere between like June and August, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe assumption. All right, so that was basically it for that Nintendo Direct, which ended up lasting a grand total of about 66 minutes. Officially the longest Nintendo Direct ever.
Yep, it was definitely a very long Direct for sure, and like I kind of said at the beginning of this video, like I said, it was most of the Mario stuff that really kind of like piqued my interest. There might have been like one or two other things as well, but for the most part, like I said, the Mario stuff is really most of the stuff in this Direct that excited me.
Yeah, I mean the Mario stuff that they had in the first third of that was definitely the best part for me. And there was one other thing I didn't mention, which is the file sizes for both Metroid Prime 4 and Age of Imprisonment. Oh boy, are these games chunky boys! About 31.5 gigs for Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch 2 at least. I don't know about the file size for it on Switch 1, and about 45 gigs for Age of Imprisonment. Oh yeah, those are some chunky boys indeed.
Yeah, that shows that they're going to be really, really big games for sure, which is definitely not surprising. But it does kind of, it is like one of those things. Then in that case, I mean, obviously, I'm sure the Switch 1 version is going to be like a little bit smaller, I imagine. But either way, it is still like one of those things where like if you haven't upgraded your storage on the Switch One, and obviously you want to get Metroid Prime 4, I would definitely recommend you do so if you want to get that game, because it's probably gonna be one of those games that eats up a lot of your system storage.
Yeah. And the one other thing, I'm gonna circle back to the Mario Galaxy collection for a bit, because there was one thing I wanted to mention in there that I neglected to do that, so I'm gonna circle back to that now. Now, if you remember, the 3D All Stars collection was a limited time release. That doesn't appear to be the case with the Galaxy 1 and 2 collection, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely am glad that Nintendo is actually making these games at least seemingly permanent this time, and that people will be able to play them beyond just the first few months they're out.
Yeah, it seems like they've learned from their mistake from the 3D All Stars collection from making that a limited release. Now, would a 3D Mario have been a better reveal for the end of the Mario portion than a Yoshi game? 100% yes. But what this tells me is that either one, they need more time to work on it, or B, it's already done, but they're not ready to show it yet.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. My guess is that maybe like they're waiting to show like the 3D Mario game until like sometime next year. Maybe they're kind of like thinking that it could be possible that the next 3D Mario game is going to be like so big and so exciting to the point where they're kind of like holding off showing it for a bit.
Yeah. Like, so I'm thinking at this point, whenever the new 3D Mario is, it'll probably be a holiday game for next year.
Yeah, that would I think be a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah. All right. So on
Yeah,
that note, that is gonna just about do it for this episode. And yeah. So thank you once again, as always, for joining me on this, Nick.
yeah, no problem. This was a great time. Just before we head out, I guess we might as well I might as well give like my kind of like my closing rating for the direct, and just
Yeah.
kind of like my overall final thoughts. So
Yeah.
overall, like I said, I think the direct was pretty much just okay. I don't think it was like anything like that bad. There was definitely a couple announcements like we mentioned that kind of made us cringe a little bit. But overall, I still think it did have some good stuff, and obviously, uh, and obviously there definitely were there's some nice stuff coming up. So overall, I probably did like maybe like about like a 7 out of 10 if I had to guess. 7 out of 10, I think is fair.
Yeah, that seems about right. All right. So yeah, that's gonna do it. And again, the next episode of this, for real this time, will probably be around the beginning of October. So hopefully we'll. So we hope to see you all then, and enjoy. Bye bye, folks.
Bye.